Welcome in, y'all. Timeshare Clarence is April 22nd, 2025. And first and foremost, I want to thank God for waking me up this morning. Bless me with another day, another opportunity to work towards becoming the man I desire to be. This morning, I really just want to talk about my oldest daughter, Aliyah. I started working on the gratitude series like a year ago, maybe. I'm not even sure, but I made an episode about my first wife, and I made an episode about my sister. Now, it's a lot of other people that I thought about, and I kind of debated back and forth about who I needed to make episodes for. So it's a lot coming, but sometimes it's really just hard to sit down and gather my thoughts. But with that being said, the more I think about it, it's like I can't keep putting it off because we're not promised tomorrow. So even if I don't have my thoughts perfectly organized, I just need to record so that I can go ahead and put it out and that it'll be there, whether those people see it now, later, whatever the case is, doesn't matter. So today, I just really want to talk about Aliyah. So I think as much as anybody, Aliyah has been the person that her opinion has facilitated the most change in me. So maybe it's a combination with her and her mom, but definitely those two. So there are conversations over the past, I would say, handful of years that just listening to Aliyah's opinion has given me a different perspective and really put me in a position to have to look at my actions and the outcomes of those actions, and then even kind of process how some of the intentions that I set out with, just because that's the way I thought things should be based off of my experience as a child, didn't necessarily contribute to the outcomes that I wanted in my children. So as an example, one thing that it's a lot of debate about whether or not corporal punishment is right. And still to this day, like, I feel like every parent has to parent their children how they feel like is gonna be the most impactful to contribute to their kids growing and developing into the adults that they need to be. My perspective on parenting has always been, it's not about making your kids happy. It's about preparing your kids for life and preparing your kids and teaching your kids to be successful adults, because most of us will be adults a lot longer than we're children. So even though your childhood is very important, your adulthood is more important, because what you do as a child is going to have only so much impact, and what you do as an adult can have much more impact. So some of the things that I didn't agree with as far as what my parents did, and my parents had two completely different parenting styles. And I would say I don't know too much about how my grandparents parented. Either of my parents, I've heard some stories, but ultimately, this isn't something that is talked about a lot. So I can just look at my parents, my experiences, the experiences I've discussed with my siblings. And one of the things that stands out, my dad passed away, and still, I don't feel like my dad was a good dad in the sense of what the things he exposed us to and the things he failed to do as a father. But I do feel like he did good in the sense of preparing us all to be mature, responsible adults, and more than anything, take accountability for our actions. Now, I don't feel like he set that example per se, because I don't feel like my dad ever really took responsibility for a lot of his actions, which was one of the things I wanted to change. I felt like my dad always blamed his shortcomings on other people or other things, so I didn't want to do that. But one thing I appreciated that my dad did, he did allow us to voice our opinions. He did have real conversations with us. He did answer questions that we had, whether or not we wanted to hear the answer. So that's something I wanted to do. Now, my mom, I felt like was mostly responsible for establishing a foundation of faith and teaching, nurturing, providing, guidance and all of that, more so than my dad. But what I didn't, well, I won't say what I didn't like. One of the things that was traumatic for me was just one situation where even though I was being honest, my mom didn't believe me. And I never wanted my kids to feel like that. So back to the corporal punishment or whoopings, as most black people say. So I grew up getting whoopings. Everybody in my family I know grew up getting whoopings. And when my kids were young, they got whoopings. My older kids especially. But one thing that I always told my kids was that basically I would guarantee they're gonna get a whooping if they lie to me, because I really wanted to instill in them being honest. So I trusted what my kids said. And ironically, and I don't know how many years ago, it's probably like 3, maybe 4 years ago, I was having a conversation with Aliyah about that. And two things from the conversation. First and foremost, just she posed a question. Basically, regardless of what the intentions are, if you really love somebody, how does hitting them express that? Like, why? Because if you want to teach somebody something, hurting them doesn't necessarily teach them anything, right? And if you really care about somebody, why would you want to do anything to hurt that person? And that did really resonate with me. So I don't hit my kids. Sophia and Micah are in a completely different situation than the other kids. And in some senses, it's better. I feel like I'm a better parent, and I do feel like their mom is also a better parent. But it's a worse situation because of the distance and the fractures in the relationship that we have. So they don't get to have both of their parents at least attempting to parent together, which all of the other kids got at some point. But just Aliyah having that conversation with me and posing, those questions, it really made me reflect on whether or not it made sense to ever, hit somebody that you love. So that was one thing. And then in that same conversation, I pretty much said, well, while they were growing up, I really didn't hit them that much. And the only thing that they know that they would get hit for was being dishonest. So then she said, essentially, that encouraged them to be dishonest, because at the point where she understood that I would believe what she said, then that essentially gave her the pass to lie, because if she did something, she told the truth, right? Then then she still might get in trouble. But if she lied about it, and I believe that she was telling the truth, she wouldn't get in trouble. So basically that encouraged her to lie once she understood that I trusted her word, because I did want my kids to feel like I trusted them, to be honest, because I didn't want them to ever feel like I felt when my mom didn't believe I was being honest. So intentions and outcomes don't always align. And that was really impactful for me, because it just blew my mind. Like, the one thing that I felt was so important for my kids to understand was that I was there and I was going to believe them, And as long as they were honest with me, then we'd deal with whatever comes of it, but just be honest with me. And by expressing that to them, and then at least her understanding that, it really influenced her to, now I don't, it's not my fault because that wasn't the intention, but it just really hit me like how crazy that is, that, you know, even if you had the best intentions, the way that you approach something or explain something and then how other people perceive it can actually have the opposite outcome. So those are two things. And then with all of the tension and conflict between me and her mom, I feel like in order for me to try to protect myself, because I didn't feel like anybody cared about me, you know, it was always about everybody else's happiness. It was always about everybody else's feelings, but mine didn't matter. But I became distant. I became cold. And I didn't do what I should have done, which was express unconditional love to my daughter. And that doesn't mean I didn't feel unconditional love, but it wasn't expressed. So when I was frustrated, and it was mostly frustration because I just didn't understand like how I could be doing everything that I'm doing and making all the sacrifices I'm making and nobody appreciate it. And then nobody be willing to do the bare minimum that I asked or required of them. And so I just shut down and withdrew. And that's not something that you can do as a parent, because you had a responsibility whenever you create a life to do what you're supposed to, regardless of what the child does. So it's a lot of things I learned from Aliyah, and still to this day, it's I probably, between our conversations and our interaction, have the most impactful revelations. So a couple weeks ago, you know, I made the videos about our little interaction or altercation. And still, what I took from that is no matter what anybody else does, I can't allow that to be an excuse for me not to live up to the standard that I want and I set for myself. So do I feel like she was being disrespectful? Absolutely. Do I feel like she had attitude that was unwarranted? Absolutely. Do I feel like I shouldn't have to tell her to clean up? It's not hard to clean up after yourself and she should be responsible. Absolutely. I believe all of those things. But do I believe as a parent that I should ever be responsive in a way that's negative, right? Like I shouldn't allow her actions, words, whatever to influence me to be less of a parent than I desire to be, which is to always protect, provide for my kids, show them unconditional love, support. And I didn't do that. So like, that's a huge lesson. And more than anything, I just want to say, Aliyah, as much as I come up short in your eyes as a father, I do love you unconditionally. I do listen to you. I do process the things that you say, even if you say it with an attitude. I do believe that you have the potential to do anything that you want to do in this life. And I do want the best for you. So going forward, I do want you to understand that our relationship is a two-way street, and you do have as much influence on me as I have on you. And I apologize for the negative contribution on my part, but I do also want to say that I appreciate all of the positive contribution from you talking to me, from you expressing how you feel, and from you offering different perspectives that allow me to see things a different way, and ultimately facilitate me desiring to make certain changes based off the things that you share with me for me to be not only a better father, but a better man. So even if you mad at me, um, for real, like at some point you would get over it. I had a lot of resentment toward my dad, and my dad was way worse than me. But in some senses, my dad was better than me because I can truly say that my dad gave me the opportunity and to openly express how I feel, to have real discussions, and that's been a huge benefit for me and him while he was here. And I do want to have that same type of relationship with you, and I'm working on it. So even if you don't want to listen to me, don't stop talking to me. Like however you feel, whatever your perspective is, I would appreciate it if you would continue to share that with me, because it really does have an impact on me, and I really do appreciate everything that you share and the contribution it is having in my life to help me become a better father and a better man. So no matter what, I love you, and that love is unconditional. And even if I don't always express it that way, and even if I come up short sometimes, as you say, and get riled up, it's not out of a lack of love. It's something that I'm working on, which is the ability to express myself without doing it in a negative way when I have some type of negative emotional reaction. And again, so that is something that I learned from you that I need to work on. And I do appreciate that, just like everything else that you share with me. I love you. I want you to be happy and have peace and fulfillment in everything you do in your life. But more than anything, I just want you to know that I truly appreciate you. And you are a huge part of the reason that I am working towards making the changes that I'm trying to make. And I'm forever grateful for your influence and your impact in my life. So thank you. I love you, and I wish you the best. Hopefully our relationship gets better, but no matter what, I'll always be here for you as long as I'm alive. And I want nothing but the best for you. So, to Aliyah, anybody else who watched this video, appreciate y'all for tuning in. Until next time, Timeshare Clarence. Peace.